I should be banned from saying the words whimsical or spooky or witchy after the amount of times I've said them in this video. Hi, hello, and welcome back to the Wool Sea Knitting channel, where today we will be going over a list of fun, cozy, witchy patterns for you to knit this season of the witch. So I have this idea for a video. It might end up being a series if I get positive feedback, but if not, this will be a fun one-off where I take a sort of hyper-specific aesthetic, niche, almost sort of a character, and create a mood board for that character or aesthetic or niche, and find a bunch of knitting patterns that I feel are appropriate. I've been really enjoying this sort of thing done by Knits by Mandy, Amanda, or Young Folk Knits' Nora Ephron, patterns, knitting video, as well as just the queen of the mood board, Emily of High Fiber Knits, and I thought it'd be fun to add a sort of whimsical twist to this idea. So I have been really enjoying spooky season. I've been really enjoying reading books and watching TV shows about witches, and as part of my ongoing efforts to lean into seasonality, I have collected, for your amusement and potential future knitting, a bunch of fun patterns that fit the vibe of a sort of witch who lives on the edge of the forest. Maybe she runs a potions shop. Maybe little kids are afraid but also inspired by her. Either way, here is the mood board that I had a lot of fun making to kind of convey the vibe of this video and what we're going for. This witch, maybe she curses people who deserve it, maybe she doesn't. You will never know. You go to her for potions and little charms, and she is both awe-inspiring and a little bit terrifying, and she is never dressed seasonally appropriately. But then again, who is? I have a whole series of garments and accessory patterns to show you, most of which are size inclusive, that lean very heavily into graphic textures, big silhouettes, and really whimsical color work with quite evocative motifs. So without much further ado, I'm going to jump straight into my cozy forest witch sweater pattern recommendations. So the very first one, and the only one on this list that is not fully inclusive through a 60-inch and more bust, is the Stag Head Pullover by Nora Gone. This came out in one of the knitting publications, I think Making Magazine or Making Stories Magazine, a few years ago, and it is just a jaw-dropper. It is so stunning. It has this really gorgeous cable motif all across the front in the shape of a stag's head, and I think knit in a darker or more muted tone, a browny purple, a mossy green, a burgundy, it would be very, very witchy, and something that you could wear in a bunch of different situations that would feel maybe a little bit witchy or really dressed up to have that kind of woman of the forest vibe. And this only goes up to fitting a 57-inch circumference bust, which is a shame, but I understand that's quite common for older publications because of, I guess, print issues? Unclear. Regardless, that's our first pattern and gives you an idea of the forest, ever so spooky vibes we are going for in this video. Next, we have a colorwork pattern. There's going to be a lot of colorwork in this video, and it is the Knock Tweed sweater pattern by designer Catherine Clark. It is an all-over colorwork fingering weight sweater with a series of different moths depicted in that colorwork, and it's graded up to a, I think, 64.5-inch bust with the recommended ease then of course added onto that. I like it. I associate moths with the dark, with cozy weather, and I think they're pretty commonly paired with witches. So this, I think, would be a very good combination of fun, but still lightweight enough, even with the 2 layers of fabric that you get when you do stretched color work. so that you could probably still wear it in a lot of different cold leaning climates. And I think it's a good combination for knitting of you do the same moth for the whole row and they kind of repeat, but then it's interesting enough when you have the different moths and the breakups of color work. I think that usually, at least in my color work knitting experience, creates a pretty enjoyable experience. And this pattern has been around for a little while, so there are a bunch of really interesting projects on Ravelry and Instagram to get inspiration from. The next garment is another all over color work garment. I think the sample is in short sleeves. However, I think it would be pretty easy to modify to make it long sleeves, and it's the Choose Your Own Fungi sweater pattern by Sarah L. Kelly of Grey Owl Knits. And I think it comes in 11 sizes with 9 different mushroom colorwork charts that you can mix and match to create the sweater of your preference, which I think is very fun and interesting. I like it when designers go that extra mile and give customization options, especially for something that's like a colorwork chart. And the fungi to me make me think of foraging, of the woods, of dark and damp places in a fun and cozy witchy way, not in like a ew gross way. And I'm personally a pretty big fan of Grey Owl Knits. I've made one of her patterns before, a pair of colorwork mittens for my mother, and I consider those one of the best things I've ever made, and I love the pattern in that, and I hope that it transfers to garment knitting because, you know, there's different challenges with grading for different bodies as opposed to for hands, but the pattern was so clear, so well written. The design of the pattern itself made it very easy to understand what I was supposed to be doing, and it was fully charted for each individual size. I doubt that's really possible for, or likely for, a garment like this, but ever since making that pattern, I've had my eye on Grey Owl Knits and their patterns in general because I would like to make more of them. And so I can at least personally endorse this pattern and their designer because of the mittens I've made by them. But I really like that they provide so many different charts and you can mix and match, choose your favorite fungi, and just have at it. Next on this list is the Love Magic sweater by Disco Stitch Designs, which is a DK weight raglan with these super dramatic sleeves, very classically Halloween witch vibes, and a fitted cropped body silhouette, which is fun, it's high drama, it can be done as a fancier knit, it can be done as something that you wear to go out with friends, or it could be part of a Halloween costume if you really wanted, or maybe just cosplaying as a witch in your day-to-day life. It's really cute, it's knit in a DK, and I think has enough textural elements to keep it interesting, but it'll go by pretty quickly at a bit of a thicker gauge than some of these other projects, as well as the cropped, I guess cropped, but the more fitted silhouette of it. I've seen a bunch of people make this online and I've heard good reviews of it, and I understand there's also a dress version as well if you were just gonna, you know, really lean in and go for that full drama, which is a lot of fun. Another sweater, again taking a break from a bunch of the colorwork designs I've pulled for this, is the Spellman sweater by Dragon Horde Designs, which is inspired by the character Sabrina Spellman in the Sabrina the Teenage Witch revival, reboot, redo, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that aired on Netflix for a few years. And it has a little bit more of a vintagey look. It has a little bit more of that like 50s, 60s sweater fit with a really pretty bauble textured, maybe cabled design going down the sleeves. And I do associate a lot of more vintagey silhouettes with kind of witchier vibes, which I enjoy. And I think this is something that would still remain pretty wearable for day-to-day life, even if it has, like, you know, that personal nod is to a character. That textural element going down the sleeves has appealed to me for a long time, and I'm pretty sure I've had this design favorited since I got Ravelry, and I've just been waiting for a time when I really feel like I need it in my wardrobe, but in the meantime, I thought I would share it all with you. Next and second last of the garments, we have the Petrichor by Rachel Ilsley, which is again a significant colorwork motif in a fingering weight garment. I struggled to choose just one of Rachel Ilsley's patterns for this. I'm pretty sure her brand is Unwind Knitwear, and she's, I would say, kind of popular. I'm sure you've come across her designs in the past, but there was something about her colorwork that felt kind of magical in a different way than the very explicit and clear forest or colorwork motifs or really graphic textural elements that I highlight in some of these other patterns. It just kind of feels like, you know, a spray of light in the way that you see magic often depicted in media. Lights, twinkling, starlight, things like that. And I think with the right choice of yarns, it could be a very fun, magical looking starlight-esque sweater. It also is still quite wearable and very pretty and quite dainty in a way that pleases me personally, and I am hoping to make one of her patterns in the future. It would still have that nice amount of whimsy that would make it kind of fun for me. And last but not least is the Apothecary Witch sweater by Ariana Frasca. This is a designer I'm not very familiar with, and this design only came out last month, but I did one last search for just the term witch in Ravelry once I was done collecting the patterns that I wanted to see if there was anything else that was really worth including, and I just couldn't resist adding this. I really like the combination of the super fun, poofy, dramatic bishop. Is that a bishop sleeve? And the colorwork motif. This whole video and an inspiration board is heavily drawing a lot from typical crowded potion shop, apothecary, forest, witch, like depictions that you see a lot, and I think this sweater did too. I thought it would be fun to make sure to include some less known patterns and less known designers as well. But I think if you just like certain elements of this, it would be pretty easy to just take the colorwork and textured yoke, or just take the sleeves and omit other parts to customize it for your own preferences. Okay, now I have two pieces of neckwear, and I hope that you like them as much as I do. The first is actually inspired by the Addams family. It's the Cara Mia sweater, which is such high drama in a way that I find absolutely delightful. It has these portraits of Gomez and Morticia Addams on either side, and I just think that's so fun and spooky and Halloween. Maybe a witch would wear this in some type of homage to witches of days gone by, you know, dressed up a little bit more to run some errands in the village. Maybe it's just fun. Maybe she trapped a couple people in her scarf and they're doomed to be there as little portraits for time immemorial. I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's cozy, and I think it's witchy, and I wanted to show you guys this pattern. The Cara Mia, the designer, oh, I need to check. The Stitch in Witch. I think this would be very cozy and warm. It looks like it's 2 layers, maybe double knitting, and in a worsted weight, so it would knit up pretty quickly, and you have the increases and decreases for the shaping as well as the colorwork charts for either portrait that I think would make it a lot more interesting than your typical scarf knit, which I know a bunch of us dread. I think it would be a good way to use up maybe some scraps to get that contrast in the colorwork. And I think that this is a fun way to jazz up outerwear and add some personality to otherwise colder weather garments, which can tend to be, not garments, cold weather accessories, which can lean a little bit more utilitarian at times. And the fringe is just really nice added flair. Next we have the Goldenberry Cowl by Xenia Nidon, which is an all-over lace cowl that it's meant to sit low on the chest, almost kind of like a yoked sweater, and then it increases gradually to add that warmth and a little bit more structure around the neck. I think that this is the kind of thing that if I were a witch living on the edge of the forest would wear to go pick some mushrooms and medicinal or magical herbs. Practical, you know, you're still warm, but without that bulk that a scarf would give you. Maybe I'm wearing a pair of fingerless mitts. I don't know. And one of the designs in this list that could be made more gothic and spooky with color choices, or could be done a little bit more green witch, herb witch, good witch if you wanted, depending on the colors because of the delicate motif. I have exactly one pair of socks in this, and it's because I could not resist sharing them with you because I'm about to finish my first of this pattern and I like the pattern. These are the Acorn socks by Amanita Knits. They're fun to knit. They are comfortable. There's a good combination of a really easy textured pattern that you do for the vast majority of the sock, and then a lot more of an interesting textured stitch at the top. So you hopefully won't get bored at any point in this sock. And I like that they just kind of come across, and the designer explicitly states that her inspiration was, what if a pair of acorns was enchanted into socks? Very witchy, very autumnal, very on brand for what we're going for, and a nice way. I mean, socks are, I think, a lot of knitters and just people in general's go-to to do something a little bit more fun in an outfit without drawing a lot of attention or kind of crossing beyond the boundaries of what's professional for work or school. And I think that these socks really fit the bill for Autumn Witch. And last, I have two mitten patterns by the same designer that absolutely had to go on this list. The pattern that no witchy roundup could omit is the Daily Tarot Mittens by Jacqueline Rivera. Each mitten features a classic tarot card design motif, one for the star and one for the sun, which are two different tarot cards. And the insides of the mittens, you know, the palm and I guess inner wrist, have a repeating swirl motif, which is nice because that is usually the kind of thing you can memorize after 1 or 2 rounds, but then you have some engaged knitting for the front, which has a non-repeating motif. These are so witchy. Tarot, it's just perfect. And this designer in general, Jacqueline Rivera, has a bunch of different colorwork patterns that are great for people who like nerdy things. I've seen some Pokemon. I've seen a bunch of video game designs amongst their Ravelry store, and a whole bunch of other witchy, spooky, fun motifs as well, including another one that I simply could not resist putting on this pattern roundup, which is the Moonlit Magic Mitts. These are convertible between a full mitten and a fingerless mitt, and they feature an eye and a crescent moon, which so witchy, so fun. Happy October, happy Halloween. Again, with the same motif on the hands to give you a break from looking at the chart for the backs of the hands that are visible. And those are the witchy, fun, spooky, whimsical, foresty patterns that I have to share with you guys today. Let me know if any of these appeal to you, and let me know what you think of this style of video. I think I'm still finding my feet with these sorts of pattern roundups. Sometimes I get into a rut with adjectives, if maybe you haven't already noticed. I would like to maybe try one for the, again, hyper-specific, incredibly niche aesthetic of the main character of a Hallmark Christmas movie going back to her small, quaint, picturesque town over the holidays right before she falls in love. You know, cabled sweaters for a snowball fight. And I would love to also do one that is you're being inducted into a secret society full of questionable people, like in Ninth House or any of the books I like to read. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked it. I hope that this was fun. Happy Halloween. And I will be hopefully coming to you with a podcast very, very soon. I have been up to a lot. Okay. Bye.